was a trampoline, these bitches couldn't marry a guy. It was a Magdalene. My shop like a little bro, Tagalog. It's these instrumentals we got with bragging on. It's rose with beer broke glass riches we drag them on. The nigga with the gate and Sega with double dragon on. The Megatron landing in Lebanon. We was slapping it back and forth like a tetherball. Used to live on French Street, we're in the Esplanade. Bitches run the shit with me, coming like espionage. You know this like why you niggas say protect your neck for? Like connect for the cylinder, always a spin. I'll connect for it right into your dome when I get it out the.
I am all for people coming together and having a good time in the name of exercise and also repurposing these bikes that are often, you know, they're
Page on Facebook by searching for CRI Learn Chinese. It's a quick yet fun way to achieve your language goals. Start your free lessons now with unlimited videos, photos, and text tutorials on especially
when you go on toys, maybe when we go on toys, like other shots got kicked, I gotta shoot it. Nigga, if you talk that time, you gotta do it. Why did you mean? I wear my heart on my...
connecting you with China and the world.
The following program is a recording of a live broadcast transmitted 7 a.m. Beijing time. Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
It's Shane Biggin with you on this Wednesday, August 26, 2020. You're listening to the Beijing Hour, live from the Chinese capital. On today's program, the Chinese Foreign Minister's European tour. Wang Yi's in Italy, where the discussions touched on COVID-19 and a range of other issues.
Yeah, because there's so many other issues.
China and Italy are both countries with a responsibility for world peace and stability. Thus, we should vigorously defend multilateralism and free trade and maintain a stable global industrial supply chain.
Take a look at how Australia is opening up its economy in small steps following the pandemic. The UN Security Council President says he'll not take any further action on a U.S. bid to trigger sanctions on Iran. In business, another record-setting day for the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ. In sports, reports say Messi is leaving Barcelona. In culture and entertainment, nominees for the China Film Directors Guild Awards. Stay tuned.
You're listening to the Beijing Hour, 60 minutes of comprehensive news, your window on China and the world.
Welcome back. Now the day's top stories. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi says relations between China and Italy have withstood the test of the COVID-19 pandemic. Wang made the remarks in Rome with Italian Foreign Minister Luigi Di Maio.
Since Italy spread it to China, apparently, supposedly, according to some.
China and Italy are both countries with a responsibility for world peace and stability.
So
Thus, we should vigorously defend multilateralism and free trade and maintain a stable global industrial supply chain. Italy will host the G20 next year. China will fully support Italy's work and make positive contributions to moving forward with global governance reforms after the pandemic and achieving an early recovery of the world economy.
Wang says that Italy provided medical supplies to China when China was hit by the pandemic. And after the pandemic hit Italy, Chinese experts headed to different that there was no self-interest involved. Di Maio has called on China or escalate China's indispensable partner in the world.
We're never
to enhance cooperation with China in the fight against COVID-19 and beyond in the future.
Italy has always been a bridge of cooperation between the East and the West. We respect all our allies.
National Post says Kim Jong-un is in a coma.
Promote comprehensive cooperation in culture, the economy, and trade. We have a lot of natural cooperation, and I believe it will have a bright future.
Wang Yi's five-nation tour in Europe. He'll also visit the Netherlands, Norway, France, and Germany. It's his first overseas trip after the pandemic began to ease in China. The Chinese diplomat says China will continue to help Europe's efforts in fighting the coronavirus and reviving the economy. The Chinese foreign minister's visit to France this week aims to deepen friendship and cooperation between the two countries. Foreign Ministry spokesman Zhao Lijian says Wang Yi will meet with French leaders during the visit and exchange ideas on issues of common concern. He also says China and France maintain good relations and have contributed to the international community despite the effects of COVID-19.
面对疫情，两国同舟共济，守望相助。
Confronted with the pandemic, China and France stood together in solidarity and mutual support. Both are committed to supporting the leading role of the UN and the WHO in international anti-pandemic cooperation, and took the lead in resuming high-level institutional dialogue after the pandemic situation eased, playing a positive role in enhancing international solidarity against the pandemic and ensuring the stability of global
WTO or any cooperation with the WHO. Who only believes in
the international
vaccines
landscape,
and
China
no
and
drugs.
France should strengthen cooperation to safeguard world
bad.
peace,
Oh, you smoke
stability, and
cigarettes?
development.
You don't get
The spokesperson also says the two
can't get
countries
sick of cigarettes
need
till
to
I'm
promote
56.
communications and coordination in multilateral forums like the UN and the G20 to deepen cooperation in all sectors. For more on the foreign minister's ongoing tour in Europe, we spoke to adjunct professor Abel Ganchev with Beijing Union University. What do you think will top the agenda for the Chinese foreign minister's Europe tour, which happens to be his first overseas trip since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, there's a wide number of topics that will most likely come up. First of all, COVID-19. We just had a small resurgence of the pandemic in Europe, and China was one of the first states to provide assistance and expertise at the beginning of the outbreak in Europe. The European states participated, so I'm sure this topic will come up, and we'll hopefully see more cooperation in terms of dealing with what remains of the pandemic. And further in relation to this, there will be talks on restarting the post-COVID economy on both sides. One crucial thing to do at this particular moment is stabilizing global industrial and supply chains, which have been somewhat disrupted in the past few months. And there are also a number of areas of shared interest, including promoting a greener global economy as well as multilateralism. So it's likely that we'll see some progress in these aspects. And in terms of bilateral talks, we know that there are ongoing negotiations on a China-EU investment agreement. In September next month, there will be a video summit, including high-level dialogue. So I'd expect this to be mentioned as well, as it's a good opportunity to communicate and to address any potential concerns or questions, and hopefully make substantial progress next month.
That was
Why can't we triple stack containers
with Beijing Union University talking about China-EU cooperation. A senior official of China's central bank has reiterated the importance of the financial sector in serving the real economy. Liu Guocheng is vice governor of the People's Bank of China. He says China will stick to its prudent monetary policy and take measures to increase support for the real economy and boost lending for small firms.
I wonder how much money they've printed over the last 5,000 years.
We will use a variety of monetary policy tools, including bank reserve requirement caps and a medium-term lending facility, and keep liquidity reasonably ample. We have launched credit loans to beef up financial support for small and macro businesses and allow them to defer their loan and interest repayments, with penalty payments exempted via new monetary policy instruments.
Thank you, because the penalty payments to poor people just don't have it. Charge me going to pay twice, you're going to make the money come back faster. You want the money to come back faster. Those negative penalties things,
effective investment, focusing on addressing inadequacies.
Oh, look how
A
defaulted
Bloomberg report says a COVID-19 vaccine developed by a Chinese company could be effective. The report says the company was ahead of most of the other potential vaccines. Beijing-based Sinovac, a NASDAQ-listed Chinese biopharmaceutical manufacturer, began final stage trials in July on its inactivated COVID-19 vaccine, which is called CoronaVac. China says the entry of a U.S. military plane in a no-fly zone is purely provocative. The plane reportedly entered airspace used for live fire exercises by the Northern Theater of the People's Liberation Army on Tuesday. The spokesperson for China's Ministry of National Defense says the move encroached on China's sovereignty, interrupted ordinary military operations, and could easily have been misjudged or have caused an accident. China's urging the U.S. to refrain from such actions in the future.
Is accident.
The Hong Kong garrison of the Chinese People's Liberation Army has completed the 23rd rotation of its members since 1997. The move has been made every year since the city's return to China. Wang Shougang is the battalion commander of the PLA Hong Kong garrison.
We received training for 1 year before entering Hong Kong to ensure that we work and live here in compliance with the laws. We have intensified military exercises and conducted professional trainings to enhance our fitness.
The garrison pledges to implement the one country, two systems principle and the basic law of Hong Kong. The troops will safeguard national sovereignty, security, and development interests, perform defense duties in Hong Kong, and maintain the prosperity and stability of the region. Chinese contestants have excelled in the that opened in Russia. They've wrapped up 1 day of competition in the game's 3 events now. The events include airborne platoon, masters of armored vehicles, and Army Scout masters. Yuan Chao is an instructor of China's airborne platoon team. They beat all other competitors in the event with a finishing time of around 49 minutes.
Our team displayed its dual training level in the competition. They did especially well in the squad platoon coordination and in analyzing battlefield elements. They've done well in managing stamina and selecting tactics. This reflects the conduct of the Chinese soldiers on the battlefield.
More than 200 teams from 32 countries are taking part in this year's International Army Games. This year's event focuses on security, medical care, and logistics. This is the 7th year that the PLA has taken part in the event, and it's placed second
medical care, and logistics. No, medical care is going to be
Chinese officials say the country's grain inventory is at a high level and has abundant reserves. Zhou Feng has more.
Grain production in China this year significantly despite natural disasters, including severe floods. The country's early rice output reached 27 million metric tons this year, up 1 million tons from last year. The summer grain output this year also rose by 1.2 million tons from last year, to a historic high of over 140 million tons. Vice Minister Yu Kangzhen of Agriculture says overall food security in China can still be guaranteed.
If those severe natural disasters occur in the following months, we can still see a bumper harvest this year. Our country's grain inventory also remains at a high level. We can continue to ensure the security of grain in China, and prices can also be kept at a generally stable level.
The National Food and Strategic Reserves Administration says the ratio of China's grain inventory to consumption far exceeds the warning level designated by the UN Food and Agriculture Organization. The administration has helped farmers safely store grain to avoid any unnecessary losses brought about through inappropriate stockpiling. Wang Hong with the administration says they've built over 3,000 service centers to provide more assistance.
以安徽省为例，目前已经为400万吨。
Stockpiling food while people starve to death, and then in the spring the food's all rotting. Anybody that knows how to feed themselves throughout the winter, they persecute and make things up.
The National Food and Strategic Reserves Administration has also provided farmers across 26 provincial level regions with nearly 9 million standardized containers for storing grain. For the Beijing Hour, this is Zhou Feng.
Provinces across China are issuing regulations mandating that hotels, restaurants, and canteens reduce their food waste. Huang Yue has more.
Restaurants are required to provide smaller meals, half-portion dishes, and to-go boxes for customers. Yu Xuerong with the Catering Association in Jiangsu Province says suggested the restaurants adjust their ways of purchasing
disposable chopsticks and the cooking oil, the gutter oil.
We have to change the way kitchens work. In the past, large amounts of ingredients were distributed to kitchens, but now we're reducing that.
Just makes it
also easier for chefs to handle materials.
But we know
restaurants are also urged to check the conditions of their stockpiled food daily. Enterprises have also started to reform their staff canteens. Some firms allow staff members to order meals online in advance so they can prepare food according to the number of orders. Li Xiaowei works at the canteen of a transportation company in Guangdong province. He says food waste dropped sharply after the implementation of the online ordering system.
We used to deal with at least half a bucket of kitchen waste every day. Recently, it has been reduced to, at most, 2 kilograms every day.
China plans to ramp up legislative efforts to curb grain waste from farmlands to dinner tables. The top legislative body is also considering new rules to fight waste in grain production, purchase, storage, transportation, processing, and especially consumption. This comes as Chinese President Xi Jinping has stressed resolutely putting an end to wasting food and called for promoting thrift. For the Beijing Hour, I'm Huang Yue.
Industrial sectors say that as the Chinese film industry recovers from the COVID-19 pandemic, movie makers need to learn how to go global and win over audiences from overseas. Wang Lei has more.
China's box office hit 1 billion yuan last week after a month since the resumption of the cinema industry. As the pandemic situation in China is under control, General Manager Liu Chun of the China Film Co-Production Corporation says China's movie production is returning to normal gradually.
For example, in shooting bases like Hongdian World Studios, crews have been lined up to shoot, and the schedule is basically full.
He says it is a good time to introduce Chinese movies to the international film market, but challenges remain due to cultural differences.
Just take food and eating habits as a metaphor. If you have a Chinese stomach, you may be more comfortable eating Chinese food. This rule works for audiences in other countries as well.
Huayi Brothers Media Group Wang Donglei says Chinese movie makers and investors can learn from other countries on how to promote their products to other regions.
For example, in major marketplaces like Toronto and the American film market, they all emphasize marketing strategies. They have the ability to connect their films with distributors, theaters, and streaming media in other regions.
The CEO adds that the ongoing Beijing International Film Festival is a good chance to show Chinese movies to the world. He expects more influential film industry insiders from around the world can be invited to the festival to raise its global profile. Several well-known directors, including Deadpool's Tim Miller and The Lion King's Rob Minkoff, will participate in the festival via video links this year. For Beijing Hour, this is Wang Lei.
Coming up, there are reports of 2 European COVID-19 patients testing positive for a second time. It's time now to continue our series on the road towards revival, focusing on the post-pandemic economic situation in a specific country in each episode. With the second wave of COVID-19 seemingly under control, Australia is opening up its economy in small steps. With 1 million Australians still out of work and a grim economic outlook, the country is now focusing on jobs. With more, Sydney correspondent Faye has the story.
Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison stressed at a press conference that jobs will remain the #1 economic issue.
With unemployment expected to be at a measured rate of over 7% over the next 2 years, jobs is the issue, the #1 economic issue.
However, experts are saying the real picture is worse. Professor John Buchanan is from the University of Sydney Business School.
The first is that a lot of people are just dropping out of the workforce. They're not counted as unemployed. The other complicating factor is that there's a lot of people who are employed but working 0 hours. So if you put all those things together,
and that
makes, more like 12-15%.
Troy lost his job since Australia started strict lockdowns back in March and has since not been able to find a new one.
Did not somehow magically grow to add up to what you take out. That's not how it works.
Quality of life is depleted a lot.
Now he relies on payments from a government scheme called the Job Seeker. It's one of many short-run support packages the federal government rolled out to boost the economy. Analysis found that Australia has spent 10% of its GDP, totaling about $150 billion in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. But experts are saying these packages are far from enough. Some are arguing the government needs to spend another $50 to $70 billion over the next year.
You really are. The white
John Buchanan stressed there are vulnerable groups in the society, particularly young graduates, need more support.
There's been essentially a collapse of the labour market.
And somehow you got
many
along with all them
companies,
Maoris.
because they're feeling uncertain and not having their graduate.
You left them alone enough to fight with each other. What happens in Australia?
So there needs to be a special program.
You're getting fucking marked for being racist pieces of shit.
John Pickett, professor of economics from the University of New South Wales, highlighted Australia's dependence on migration.
You know how much money I get for
weed
in Bermuda?
A lot of our exports, that's significant.
Weed in Bermuda costs more than the crack cocaine.
Tourism, education, business services, and those exports require our borders to be open and open in a reasonably efficacious way, not open in a way that requires 2 weeks quarantine every time you cross the border.
So no, it has to be done that way. See, everybody wants it. Oh, we'll have the rule, but we'll make exceptions for our people.
The Reserve Bank said in its
we'll
August
those people,
economic
those people, but we don't
report
understand how the virus
that
is getting around.
GDP is expected to contract by around 6% over the year by December 2020, with unemployment rate reaching 10%.
And the piece that reproduces will reproduce.
For the Beijing Hour, this is Feifei in Sydney.
In our next episode, we'll focus on the economic situation of South Africa. Stay tuned. It's 20 past the hour. A World Health Organization official says chances of people being reinfected with COVID-19 are slim. The University of Hong Kong announced on Monday that a man had contracted the new coronavirus for a second time after an interval of more than 4 months. Dr. Margaret Harris dismissed concerns that this development could herald a new alert, but said that it's important that this case has been documented.
The other important thing to note is the numbers are very, very small. So this is one documented case in over 23 million, and we will probably see other documented cases, but it seems to be not a regular event. We would have seen many more cases.
Dr. Harris adds that there have been previous anecdotal reports, but says that that could have been a problem with testing. The University of Hong Kong scientists who announced the reinfection case said the virus strains that infected the man more than 4 months apart were different. And Harris says that the reinfection reported in Hong Kong is significant in terms of understanding human immunity.
But it's very important to understand what this means in terms of immunity. And this is why we have got a lot of research groups actually tracking people, measuring antibodies, trying to understand how long the immune protection lasts, the natural immune protection. And that should be understood as it is not the same as the immune protection that a vaccine provides.
The World Health Organization has so far recorded more than 23.5 million confirmed coronavirus cases.
No vaccine ever has ever been tested for efficacy.
2 European patients are confirmed to have been reinfected with the novel coronavirus, one of them in Belgium, the other in the Netherlands. Mark Van Ranst is a Belgian virologist.
The timeline's 25 fucking years to find out if it worked or not. You think you're part of the fucking solution or part of the fucking experiment?
Typical COVID infection, not bad enough to go to the hospital, but she was really ill. And the second case was exactly 3 months later, with exactly the same symptoms.
It says as viruses mutate, a potential vaccine is not going to be a vaccine that'll last forever. A French epidemiologist is questioning the use of convalescent plasma, which has been approved for wider use by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. Epidemiologist Dominique Castillo says that there's been no conclusive data comparing the recovery rates of patients treated with plasma and those that were not.
Il faut savoir que dans certaines maladies,
we could do all this blood work that's completely useless, but spit in my face, call me dirty nigger, and then say I'm white, so I can't have sickle cell. Oh, wait a second. You're going to have sickle cell, but you're white because it's an iron deficiency, but you will not tell me my blood type.
To make these kind of
done over 100 fucking blood tests.
On Sunday said it authorized the use of blood plasma.
Can anyone out there tell me a conspiracy that covers that?
As a treatment.
Can anyone else tell me that your entire life, 40 fucking years, you cannot get an answer to your blood type?
People with a range of illnesses, including rabies, hepatitis B, and chickenpox.
Oh, hepatitis B vaccine.
Economic ministers of the 10 members of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations have discussed the response to and recovery from COVID-19 and its impacts.
They exchanged views at this year's ASEAN Economic Ministers meeting that was held online. Vietnamese Minister for Industry and Trade Chan Toon An chaired the meeting.
The ASEAN countries are all export-oriented economies. They are all countries actively participating in economic globalization. Vietnam is one of them. The cooperation goals we set and some new initiatives on ASEAN integration, as well as the cooperation initiatives with China, Japan, and South Korea are all in line with the strategies of different countries to promote their sustained economic growth and economic diversification.
The attendees discussed the response to COVID-19, including rolling out a recovery plan, as well as ASEAN's economic integration and the reform of the World Trade Organization. Established in 1967, ASEAN includes 10 countries such as Brunei, Cambodia, and Indonesia.
You don't own your kids, we do.
Broadcasters from 6 countries in the Asia-Pacific region have agreed that the media has a responsibility to present the truth, reduce panic, and debunk groundless claims during a crisis. That agreement came when 6 media executives from countries such as China, Turkey, and Australia took part in a video conference. The conference was held by the Asia-Pacific Broadcasting Union on how to better serve the public during the pandemic and beyond. Sun Yusheng is a member of the China Media Group editorial board.
I agree
with you that information must be true, accurate, objective, and fair. This is directly related to the survival of the entire media industry and our credibility.
He says since the outbreak of COVID-19, CMG's deployed more than 5,500 people in news collecting, editing, and broadcasting. It also sent a news coverage team of 216 people to the front line in Hubei, a province that was once hit hard by the virus. The 6 speakers also shared their experiences in providing a variety of programs to educate children online and keep people mentally and physically healthy during the crisis. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson is insisting that schools are safe to fully reopen despite fears from teachers and parents over the coronavirus. Parents and teachers say that current social distancing measures will not protect from the coronavirus when schools reopen next week. Johnson says it's crucial that students return to school and express confidence in the steps taken to ensure that they're
China's one
All our scientific advice is that schools are safe. It's absolutely crucial that people understand that. There's far more risk to the well-being of our children from not going to school than there is from, I'm afraid, from the disease. So that's my priority.
That's not based on anything. There were no schools in Britain when they forced schools on us here. So don't fucking tell me that's anything other than the same experiments in their study to know what laws to change to make everything you did legal.
27 past the hour, the UN Security Council president says he'll not take further action on a U.S. bid to trigger a return of all UN sanctions on Iran. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo on Thursday submitted Washington's demand for the return of all pre-2015 UN sanctions against Iran. German Foreign Minister Heiko Maas has called on Turkey and Greece to resolve their dispute in the Eastern Mediterranean through dialogue. He made the remarks at the end of his visit to Ankara, saying the escalation of tensions in the region helps no one. Greece and Turkey disagree over the overlapping claims on hydrocarbon resources in the Eastern Mediterranean. Beijing today is getting thunderstorms in 30 degrees Celsius, a low of 21 degrees. Chongqing sunny in 36, then down to 25. West getting clouds in 23, a low of 11. Hong Kong will be overcast in 30, a low of 26 degrees Celsius. It's time for a short break so far this hour. The Chinese Foreign Minister's European tour. Wang Yi is in Italy, where the discussions touched on COVID-19 and a range of other issues. We've taken a look at how Australia is opening up its economy in small steps following the pandemic. And the UN Security Council president says he'll not take further action on a U.S. bid to trigger sanctions on Iran. Shane Bigham with you. Stay with us here on the Beijing Hour.
So here locally, they're trying to call all of the premier's ads about what they're planning to do in schools. Propaganda. Oh, it's propaganda. Yeah. And every teachers union ad is also propaganda. Every public service announcement ever is propaganda. It's the meaning of the term. Will those teachers ever explain it to a child? No. No, propaganda is bad.
Open your eyes to
they're hoping all of you are too stupid to know what the word is.
Examining the events
it's government produced.
China
this is what we're doing.
This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Shane Bigham with you on this Wednesday morning. Still to come in business, another record-setting day for the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ. In sports, reports say Messi is leaving Barcelona. In culture and entertainment, nominees for the China Film Directors Guild Awards. Now checking the day's headlines. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi says relations between China and Italy have withstood the test of the COVID-19 pandemic. Wang made the remarks in Rome with Italian Foreign Minister Luigi Di Maio after they had talks.
China and Italy are both countries with a responsibility for world peace and stability. Thus, we should vigorously defend multilateralism and free trade and maintain a stable global industrial supply chain. Italy will host the G20 next year. China will fully support Italy's work and make positive contributions to moving forward with global governance reforms after the pandemic and achieving an early recovery of the world economy.
Wang says that Italy provided medical supplies to China when China was hit hard by the pandemic. After the pandemic hit Italy, Chinese experts headed to different parts of the European country to share experience in fighting the coronavirus. And he says China's support for Italy had nothing to do with politics and that there was no self-interest involved. China says the entry of a U.S. military plane in a no-fly zone is purely provocative. The plane reportedly entered aerospace used for live-fire exercises by the Northern Theater of the People's Liberation Army on Tuesday. A spokesperson for China's Ministry of National Defense says the move encroached on China's sovereignty, interrupted ordinary military operations, and could easily have been misjudged or have caused an accident. China is urging the U.S. to refrain from such actions in the future. A Bloomberg report says a COVID-19 vaccine developed by a Chinese company could be effective. The report says the company was ahead of most of the other potential vaccines. Beijing-based Sinovac, a NASDAQ-listed Chinese biopharmaceutical manufacturer, began final stage trials in July on its inactivated COVID-19 vaccine, which is called Coronavac. You don't know what lets it reproduce. A World Health Organization official says the chances of people being reinfected with COVID-19 are slim. The University of Hong Kong announced on Monday that a man had contracted the new coronavirus for a second time after an interval of more than 4 months. Dr. Margaret Harris dismissed concerns that this development could herald a new alert, but said that it's important that the case has been documented.
The other important thing to note is the numbers are very, very small. So this is one documented case in over 23 million, and we will probably see other documented cases, but it seems to be not a regular event. We would have seen many more cases.
Dr. Harris adds that there have been previous anecdotal reports, but says that could have been a problem with testing. The University of Hong Kong scientists who announced the reinfection case said the virus strains that infected the man more than 4 months apart were different. Harris says that the reinfection reported in Hong Kong is significant in terms of understanding human immunity.
But it's very important to understand what this means in terms of immunity, and this is why we have got a lot of research groups actually tracking people, measuring antibodies, trying to understand how long the immune protection lasts, the natural immune protection, and that should be understood as it is not the same as the immune protection that a vaccine provides.
The World Health Organization has so far recorded more than 23.5 million confirmed coronavirus cases and over 890,000 deaths worldwide. Spain will deploy 2,000 members of the armed forces to help the country's 17 autonomous communities track those who've been in contact with people who have COVID-19. Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez announced the plan after Spain recorded over 40,000 new coronavirus infections during the previous week, the highest weekly number since late March. Experts attribute the new surge to the inability to effectively track and trace contacts. Spain's government has launched a COVID-19 fund of 16 billion euros, or around $19 billion US, to strengthen public health services.
Which country?
UN Security Council President says he'll not take further action on a U.S. bid to trigger a return of all UN sanctions on Iran. Indonesian UN Ambassador Diane Dejani is the Council President for August.
It is clear for me that there is one member which has a particular position on the issues, while there are significant numbers of members who have contesting views. In my view, there is no consensus in the Council. Thus, the President is not in the position to take further action.
U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo on Thursday submitted Washington's demand for the return of all pre-2015 UN sanctions against Iran. The majority of Security Council members hold that the U.S. move does not constitute a notification as envisioned by the UN Security Council Resolution 2231, which endorsed the Iran nuclear deal. U.S. President Donald Trump says he'll nominate acting Secretary of Homeland Security Chad Wolf to formally lead the agency. Trump announced his decision in a tweet and said that Wolf has done an outstanding job. Wolf has been acting secretary since November of 2019. The permanent position has been vacant since Kirstjen Nielsen resigned earlier that year. The DHS has taken a series of moves to crack down on illegal immigration at the border under Wolf's management. He recently ramped up the federal presence in some U.S. cities to protect federal properties amid demonstrations, despite opposition from state and local officials. This is Shane Bigham live from the Chinese capital. Coming up in business, the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ have set new records.
You're listening to the Beijing Hour, 60 minutes of comprehensive news. Your window on China and the world.
It's 37 past the hour. Turning to business, the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ hit all-time closing highs, but a drop in Apple stock capped the gains from positive developments in U.S.-China trade and fresh progress in the medical battle against the coronavirus pandemic. The Dow fell by 0.2%. The S&P 500 gained 0.4%. The NASDAQ added 0.8%. Apple weighed heaviest on all three indexes, though. Its stock retreated days ahead of its 4-to-1 stock split. That split, which will reduce Apple's weight on the Dow, prompted a reshuffle in the blue chip industrial average. Multivariate managing partner Max Wolf.
The markets are telling us that big tech and corporate profits are going to do pretty well, better than we had feared, but still anything other than big tech and corporate profits looks like still slogging it out in the tough times of COVID and recession. And probably we're talking about 6 months to a year before we exit the difficulty. So unfortunately, anything fundamental indicator still says what you probably feel at home, which is these are uncertain times and it's hard to be optimistic without really pressing your finger all the way down on the painkillers.
In Europe, stocks ended lower on mixed economic data. The UK's FTSE 100 was down by 1%. Germany's DAX gained 0.5%. In Asia, Chinese stocks closed mixed, with the Shanghai Composite down by 0.4%. The China Next Index gained 0.6%. Market analyst Wang Liyuan.
Mainland stocks ended the day mixed. The Shanghai Composite opened higher, traded higher on news that Chinese and U.S. trade negotiators are to have phone talks, but closed the day down 0.4% at 3,373 points. China stocks, like you mentioned, remain in the spotlight. Today is the second day under revamped trading rules where daily price limits for new shares are scrapped and 20% daily price changes are allowed for all China stocks. The first batch of 18 IPOs launched Monday, mostly extended gains today. Textile maker Alquai Nonwoven surged 77%, leading gains there. Ningbo PVE electrical technology, however, dropped almost 2%. That's after Monday's more than 700% surge. Analysts say with the new rules, we could continue seeing such volatility in certain stocks because they attract irrational short-term trading, but eventually things will become more stable.
The Hang Seng Index was down by 0.3%. The Nikkei gained 1.4%. The Straits Times Index was up by 0.8%. President Xi Jinping says China will provide a broader market for other countries. He says China will have even closer connections with the rest of the world as its status in the global economy keeps rising. He made the remarks at a symposium with economists and scholars in Beijing as China prepares to make its next national development plan. President Xi says China's focus on strengthening self-sufficiency is by no means a closed domestic economic cycle. With more on this, Sumi spoke earlier to John Ross, Senior Fellow of the Chongyang Institute for Financial Studies at Renmin University.
So first of all, what do you make of the general signals of the speech about economic development strategy?
Well, it shows that China's economy is recovering more rapidly than any other major economy in the world, and the
the coronavirus, and it remains firm on its orientation towards globalization. China's going to be the main driver of the world economy during this year and next year. If you take the IMF projections, China will account for about 51% of world growth during 2020 and 2021.
The president says that China will remain a magnet for imports. So how do you...
World economy, and in real terms, it's actually now the largest economy in the world. It's true it's not the largest economy in terms of current exchange rate, but if you take it in terms of what economists call parity purchasing power, that's real product, how many
you're actually buying,
how many drinks are sold, how many cars are sold, etc. Actually, China's economy is already the largest in the world. So therefore, it's going to be absolutely a magnet both for imports and for investment by foreign companies.
And more about this dual circulation policy. We've heard a lot about this idea recently. As what's still needed to be done to expand the domestic demand?
Well, there's two aspects of domestic demand, which is both consumption and investment. Sometimes people think of domestic demand only as consumption, but that's not actually correct. It's about divided about 50-50 between consumption and investment. China is embarking on very big investment programs.
I love people to say that.
Cities, improving metro systems. I saw reports that it's going to be 150 metro lines built in China. This is creating big demand for products such as steel, concrete, and big demand for labour supply. And this is the key driver.
What's in some of those hoppers?
Part of the economy. Consumption is a little bit more slow to rise because people are nervous. People, they want to get back to normal, but on the other hand, they want to make sure that the virus is thoroughly stamped out. In China, the virus is pretty stamped out. It's not a big problem.
That was John Ross, Senior Fellow of the Chongyang Institute for Financial Studies at Renmin University, commenting on China's economic development strategy.
I don't know how y'all still
got it. The company that owns TikTok has made its first disclosure of user data as part of its lawsuit against the Trump administration's executive order to ban TikTok in the United States. ByteDance says it protects U.S. user data by storing that data outside of China on servers in the United States and in Singapore. Data shows that the video sharing app now has around 100 million monthly active users in the U.S. and 500 million globally. A new report by CB Insights says ByteDance is the world's largest unicorn company by valuation. A New York-based research firm says China's home to 3 of the top 10 unicorns or private startups that are valued at over $1 billion US. Among the nearly 500 global unicorns, ByteDance ranks first with a valuation of $140 billion US. That's followed by ride-hailing giant Didi Chuxing, valued at $56 billion US. ByteDance's major rival, Tencent-backed short video platform Kuaishou, ranks 7th globally with a valuation of $18 billion US. Shenzhen-based store maker DJI Innovations and cryptocurrency giant Bitmain Technology also made the list of the world's most valuable unicorns. Chinese fintech company Ant Group may be set to enter the record books in the coming weeks when it completes what's expected to be the world's largest ever initial public offering. Analysts say investor interest is huge amid a surge in the popularity of touchless mobile payments amid the global COVID-19 pandemic. And Richard Kimber reports from Hong Kong.
I don't trust him.
完成后，即使你空着手，也可以到处空腹了。
In an Ant Group corporate video, a customer walks into a store and pays for their shopping by scanning the tattoo on their left arm at the counter. The video's narrator asks the viewers, "Can you imagine anything more convenient?" It's this type of innovation that forms the basis of Ant's mission statement to make it easy to do business anywhere. Ant Group is the fintech affiliate of Chinese e-commerce giant Alibaba and operates China's biggest mobile payment platform, Alipay. With over 1 billion users, its upcoming IPO is drawing a lot of attention. Michael Norris is the research and strategy manager at Shanghai-based investment and brand consultancy Agency China. He says the IPO will highlight to the world the sheer scale of the mobile payment industry in China.
In actuality, what it's done is it's opened up the possibility to leave the house without taking your wallet with you, having all your payment options on your phone, and so that's contributed to absolutely massive mobile adoption. This year, we're projected to have total mobile payment transaction volume of a $47 trillion figure here as opposed to a $283 billion figure in the US.
The IPO comes amid a global economic slump due to the impact of the coronavirus pandemic, but that may not dent investors' appetite for Ant. Michael Norris says that while much of the world may not have heard of the company yet, that will soon change after its IPO.
Ant Financial, whether you regard it as a bank or a fintech company or a tech company, its valuation puts it as a world-beating proposition.
Your company goes out of business, so I have to get a different
Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs combined.
Ant will list its shares simultaneously on Shanghai's tech-focused Star Market and on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, where Alibaba already has a secondary listing. It'll be the first major Chinese tech company to seek a primary listing at home rather than in the US, setting a trend that many other big Chinese names are expected to follow. For the Beijing Hour, I'm Richard Kimber, reporting from Hong Kong.
Coming up in sports, Messi is reportedly asked to leave Barcelona. 47 minutes past the hour now, and turning to sports, here's Yang Guang.
Thank you, Shane. Reports say Lionel Messi has told Barcelona that he wants to leave the club after nearly 2 decades with the Spanish Giants. The club has confirmed to media that Argentine legend sent a document expressing his desire to leave. The document reportedly refers to a clause in the last contract Messi signed with the club, which would allow him to leave for free, a clause that expired on June 10th this year. Under the current terms of the contract, which expires next year, the only way Messi can leave without the club's consent is if a rival side pays his release clause of nearly $830 million. Messi's announcement came 11 days after Barcelona's humiliating exit in the Champions League, after suffering one of the worst defeats in the player's career in the club's history by Bayern Munich.
I was wondering how many
in the Chinese Super League, Paulinho's second-half goal inspired.
I was trying to figure out, did I mean the same number of each coin, or did I mean the same dollar value, like 2 loonies to each toonie? And that's when they got the sports.
On est souvent seul quand il faut avancer. Un genou à terre, déjà prêt pour affronter tout ce que t'as voulu cacher. Ok. Ce qu'on peut tomber, faire ses dents, tu l'as déjà fait. Tu te crois seul, mais crois-moi quand je te dis qu'on y est passé. Ce qu'on peut tomber, faire ses dents, tu l'as déjà fait. Après, ça te rend pas non. Ne reste pas.
I ain't sleep. Why they trying to leave me? I wear my heart on my arm sleeve. I'm the last of a dying breed. Like he just.
Yeah, so all that shit I went through this morning, being sick, and then being able to get up to all this stuff now, relatively normal. I just keep going and going and on. Sick in the head, sick to the marrow in my bones. I don't think anybody fucking knows.
Twin hammers look like the Siamese. I got that beam from the Japanese. My French girl waving, it reminded me of mac and cheese. It is what it has to be. I'm killing out who's after me. They have to see me rich, and I swear, what's it financially? Like who be thrilling, boy? They fly out like there's a trampoline. These bitches couldn't marry a guy. It was a Magdalene.
How you get out the store with the beer in your hand, you're 5 cents short. The guy comes with you, but he's not chasing you, he just comes with you. And then I give him 10 cents.
The nigga with the gate and Sega was double tracking on the Megatron. Landing in Lebanon. We were slapping that black.
I didn't do that. I did that because he's black, not because you're black.
Right in the Esplanade. Bitches try to strip and make us feel like espionage. You know this by the
I think they looked out the window and saw me today. Let's see what he does.
Just for that shit to be wet. Like a net for the cylinder, always a spin. I connect thought right into the dome when I get it out the chest to joint rapper. When you go on tour, it's all music. Maybe when we go on tour, it's all shootings. Like other straps got kicked, I gotta shoot it. Nigga, if you talk that talk, you gotta do it. Why they try me? I wear my heart on my iron sleeve. I'm the last of a down bread. Why they try me? I wear my heart on my iron sleeve. I'm the last of a down bread. Like he just wanna go on tour and make music. But every time you go on tours, it's all shootings.
Yeah, I'm the last of a dying breed. I uppercut these fucks in the chin and they fly with ease. I bleed what I have to bleed. This blood's what I have to see. So big, go sit with your fam. I call it Applebee's. Who the fuck trying to get stuck? Tell them ask for me. That match pack about to get struck. I brought the gasoline. I've never lost. I got OGs to get it back for me. Call me down. Call me the crown. Call me your majesty, God. They try to handle me, Lord. No, I'll play that. The bullets in that great Mac 8-track. They go way back. I buy them up. Top your mom. Look where the safe at. Put numbers on your head. You already covered in face tats, boy. Why they always trying to snake that, boy? Charlie got the defibrillator to shake that, boy. Forget about it. You turn me to Rocky ASAP, boy. I'm the last of a dying breed. They wanna break that, boy. Like, you bringing all that beef to the farm. My man's branded you. If you don't get respect in the streets, I can't stand with you. They tell you you a threat on the beat. Your man's scamming you. The Benz is like a beast when it spins. Crash Bandicoot. Pull up with a camera crew. Cannons in your face now. Anybody that's lying to us is lying face down. White boy, nice with a pen. This ain't no 8 Mile. We playing hopscotch in the spots where the body's traced out. Cause when you go on tour, it's all music.
Yeah, education minister. Always make sure the kids are more safer.
Your eyes wide shut, we gone cool. We ain't really got all that talk, we just do
I wear my heart on my iron sleeve.
Oh, I don't give a fuck what your language skills if you know what you're doing. He's proven you don't know what he's doing. And one of the tip-offs is
like he just want to go on tour and make music. The last of a down bread. But every time you go on tours, it's all shootings. The last of a down
I am armed, put it all on my cake now. I already got tattoos. I got the American Express black eye. I said that joke earlier. They come on with a show. A tattoo for your credit card. Hold on a second. I'm not a tattoo, Bradley. Well, it is, but Creator gave it to me. Glue skip, I think. Here, squish this bug. Okay. Oh, god damn it. I don't need to go back to the first half of the 90s. You keep pretending I'm not pressing the button, but Mr. Agent Man, do you know how many times I'm pressing it, or are you just guessing? Like, what's going on here?
I better make these niggas run for my nigga, 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 run. I better make these niggas run for my nigga, just to blast off the blue steel, cap peel. You look at his man, his man feel it's real. Out here, shit hits the fan hard. I open niggas doors to the crib like the landlord. This shit wasn't planned, God. Niggas tried to humble me. I told this bitch to leave my house when she was trying to comfort me. This bitch thought I did this, so she told her bro to run for me. Came on a fight thing, but I wasn't. I made him run for me. Yeah, I got my gun out. Told this nigga turn around. You have 5 seconds to run, or you gon' back the ground. Took off, fell face first when you heard the sound. I ain't even hit this nigga. I think the sound was out. Nigga went in shock, and I never seen his face again. I did it by myself. I wasn't trying to catch a case again. Next day he called my phone off of my team. Told him come where I'm at. It's gonna be a bad thing. Run for my nigga, 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 run run for my nigga, run for my nigga, run for my ladies niggas, run for my nigga, 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 run for my nigga,
Run from a nigga when I got the pick up. You a homie vision, what the fuck, tell him sit out. I don't give a fuck about that bitch that you did out. Sitting right there when I chase out the wig out. Yellow take the place, call the corner the fastest. Niggas say they want my head, but now I'm laughing. The bitch bump to the straight line, got fastest. And if you lose, then the season get drafted. Stressed out, you gotta flush and you fast one. Wake up every day, walk out, this is my last one. You stop at the free sleep, walk out hell. And I got more.
Really? Talk about a whole box of them? Not
a package to keep students safe during the pandemic.
680 News Time 9:54.
Which students?
Decreasing deductible for the greatest drivers on the road, like Steve, who resisted his tantalizing meatball sub the entire ride home, or Mika, who just ignored that incoming text message, and Jason, who checks his blind spot every single time. It's for you. With Toonie Insurance decreasing deductible, you can reduce your deductible by 10% each financial year.
Sex, money, get murder is what I fantasize. Sex, money, get murder is what I fantasize. Sex, money, get murder is what I fantasize. Sex, money, get murder is what I fantasize.
Plenty promises, no family ties. Beating court cases surround me like a gang of flies. I seen it done to keep it moving, only fantasize about my equilibrium. I need to answer why. I need these bank notes in millions and pauses for my monument. To lay up in the BNC, this D up in between my thighs. I fantasize about these angry guys. Killer fams, they never
I didn't notice those tomatoes will last those seeds will last a whole year before they.
Coming up with niggas moving all these hammers fly.
And somehow they've suited themselves to carry this climate in the winter.
You govern, then they shoot you. Understand my whys? I could still be on my hammer shit. No, but the MC in me burning like this cannabis. I'm paramount on that list.
You don't have to like
the
them.
flex you with the rental. It's the only thing that's switching up. The game chill like menthol. Yo, who are you is Kimbo? I've been broken, came up it, lost that, it's still cold. You niggas joking, still broke. Bring my niggas in and out.
This may seem silly, but around where I live, if you're Micmac, you'll get this, or even most First Nation, like if you're, I say most because we live in different climates and shit. Where I live, I can walk around. There's trees and things because we got rules about not cutting them down. I call it City of Trees. Dean Blondell used to. It's 90 degrees in the City of Trees. Anyway, fucking. I don't know if he was copying somebody else, but he's who I heard it from, and that's how some of these things pass on down the line. Fucking everywhere I've thrown these tomato things, they're growing up and sprouting huge handfuls of fucking. The plants I found only had a few straggly things most of the time. If I found one that looked like it had strong plants, I threw those all over the fucking place. Like a whole bunch of spots not too far from where it was to try to get the same conditions. So I know no matter what happens to me now, that shit worked. That worked. And obviously they spread some other, I've seen them all over the fucking place. Obviously I found them, I didn't create them. I didn't buy the seeds. I know so many plants, so many individual plants now giving fruit, so much fruit, so many clumps of fruit, and so much in each one, and presumably there's going to be a bunch of seeds in each one. Yeah, there are actually. The ones that bust open on my hands look like they got. There must be, because they're bursting. They're not going to die off anytime soon. Just from walking around my neighborhood, you people are throwing aluminum cans. You're laughing at me for kicking around in the garbage. There was a 40-year-old grapevine out there this fucking big, 4.5 inches. Some genius cut through it because we got to knock this wall down. But I saved some of those. I threw some of those everywhere too. I have not seen my grapes pop up anywhere. I don't know how long it takes grapes to grow. I know a whole bunch of these places around here have grapes growing along the fences.
So I'm not worried about the grapes. So the tomatoes are not what you expect. They're little tiny red things that look like berries. So everybody just assumes they're berries. They don't look at them. The tomato was cultivated by the South American Indians. I forget which ones. To the point where they got these big round. It's the first one they start genetically modifying, right? It's just in our nature to fuck with these plants that we've been growing all the time. Carrots used to be purple. Dutch people bred them to be orange. So I think it's Peru. I'm pretty sure it's Peru where they thousands of years ago were cultivating tomatoes. If you allow it to, it comes from a small berry and type small fruit plant. And they taste like tomatoes, yes, if you let them ripen and the ground is not disgusting. Animals that are starving might not be so picky about taste. And it don't matter because the more the seeds fall down and grow, the earth will eventually get healthy again. If you eat them when they first turn red, or just when they're not ripe, they start up green, of course. They taste like chalk. These things grow at like 10,000 feet. And now they're growing at this latitude. What is it, 43 degrees up here? Pretty sure. And they obviously last through the winter because the same plants are still there. That doesn't always happen. And the seeds I don't think they all sprouted the first year I threw them around. If I throw them around in August and September and October, which I do because I see clumps of them still hanging. The tomato dried onto the fucking seeds. You can see the seeds through it. And the thing with tomatoes, and if you save the seeds, you'll know you gotta get the juices and shit off them at some point before you plant them because they won't fucking germinate while they're still exposed to the tomato juice.
Both crimes. Toronto police have quite a case on their hands.
Picking up speed as it travels through the warm Gulf Coast, Hurricane Laura could cause devastating damage when it makes landfall late Wednesday.
The Blue Jays are down to their last couple of outs against the Red Sox at Salem Field.
I'm about to hit the boots, I'm the out there. Tunnel vision, your purse is all improved, I am surrounded.
Record again for Wall Street. S&P and NASDAQ close at all-time highs. The Dow pulls back alongside Apple, and the TSX falls with the price.
It's my age group, it's been the next planet for the president. These pussies on the internet, so fashion on the skinny rich. I never knew I was the way you connect. I was the first
What are you gonna do? Every fucking time I press the button, you're gonna cycle. What if I press it twice? You're gonna cycle it once? Fuck off, pussy hole. You're a botchy old piece of shit, eh?
401 approaching Kennedy if you're running at the collectors. A couple lanes were taken away, and then the MTO was on the scene here on the right lane where they still are. They're almost about to leave the area. No more delays through this crash scene on the westbound 401 and the collectors approaching Kennedy. So construction, some of it is not yet in place, but it will be. Eastbound 401, they are set up now, approaching the 427 in the express. It's the two right lanes that are blocked off, so really not bad at all. It's going to take another lane that is going to cause some problems, and they usually do. We'll just wait and see. They're going to be closing the express once again on the eastbound 401 and split east of Kipling, and it's going to last tonight all the way to approaching Young. So you won't be able to transfer east to the 400. And,
I don't have my fucking diary on here, do I?
Get into the collectors at the Allen either. This transfers.
Oh, you're gonna put everything back. Put everything back.
All the way to approaching Young.
Right. You better do it. I know you cycled it twice. So you wait till you cycle it a third time.
Fast right now, you might be able to ride in the express. Very heavy delays eastbound 401, both directions, west and eastbound 401 approaching Broad Street. So eastbound dropped down from approaching Lakebridge. Westbound we're seeing delays from west to Stevenson.
How the fuck it is they keep getting hours of nothing?
Slowing you down from approaching Avenue and the expressway through to the Allen. So just heads up through there. Eastbound Gardner, hearing of a crash now at the DVP where a right lane's blocked, so we'll expect some slowdowns through this zone too. Next report at 10:11. Here's the forecast with Carl Lamb.
We could have a few isolated showers tonight, but open up the windows, enjoy that nice cool breeze, and 14 degrees for an overnight low. Tomorrow, partly sunny to start the day. Clouds
the irony is, this means I know there's a way to make the status bar disappear. I just don't know how to do it, man.
During the overnight from Wednesday into Thursday. 22 is the high tomorrow.
Yeah, so I know I'm being fucked with on a hardcore level. There's no way for me to turn that off. It disappears when they want it to.
Right now in downtown Toronto, partly cloudy, 23 degrees, and temperatures near 4 to few clouds, and 22. 680 News Time, 10:03.
Toronto Raptors Fred VanVleet and Norm Powell are speaking out after a black man was shot in the back by police in Wisconsin.
As 680's Phil Martino tells us, the team has reportedly discussed potential action to take ahead of Thursday's game.
No one's presumed to be armed. They're armed as if, like, even armed. You mean bearing arms? Let's be armed. Everybody's got a kitchen knife, no?
How many of his own players have been in a situation with law enforcement officers?
With guns held to their head or whatever that they have shared with us.
Norm Powell says he's frustrated and disappointed with what we keep seeing over and over again.
I'm pretty tired and sick to my stomach to have to sit up here and talk about this again.
According to Fred VanVleet, nothing's really changing.
We're willing to give up until we actually give
up. You're smart enough to be a black Republican.
Nurse says the possibility of boycotting games is being talked about. 29-year-old Jacob Blake is in serious condition after he was shot in the back by police on Sunday.
Make them get all new guys out the hood. Everybody refused to watch unless it's some kid undiscovered out there. Fuck you. You niggas don't know how to roll with money. Oh, they'll give me another couple million. Yeah, that's how fucking cheap you are.
The federal government plans to free up another $2 billion to help the provinces beef up back to school safety and cope with COVID-19. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is expected to announce the cash tomorrow at a school in Toronto. The money is on top of the $19 billion that Trudeau has already promised to ensure boards can safely reopen schools that happened back in July. The funding is to be handed out based on the number of students in each province and territory.
And the province is reporting 100 new cases of COVID-19 today, numbers staying in the triple digits for a 5th straight day, with more than 20,000 tests processed and 2 new deaths. Those cases coming from the GTA itself. The region's 7-day rolling average has surpassed the rest of Ontario combined. This news coming as the Doug Ford government is being pressed on what they're spending their money on, especially with new ads in circulation promoting their education plan.
680 News Time, 10:06. Many school bus drivers are feeling uneasy about getting behind the wheel again next month. 680's Donna Qureshi is here with the major concerns being raised by drivers.
Over the past few weeks, we've heard a lot about what life could be like for students and teachers back in classrooms, but what about before they even get through the front doors of the schools? Bus drivers are raising a number of concerns about what the daily commute will look like, with questions about cleaning buses, availability of PPE, and how students will be spaced out when seating. Debbie Montgomery is the president of Unifor Local 4268, representing the drivers.
We want to do our jobs, but we want everybody to be safe. We want to go back to work. We understand kids need to go back to school. That's important. But
how is it important? You didn't fucking do it.
We need to be safe.
One of the big concerns
they need their shots, because I got my shot.
That the board,
bus
companies, and the
province
seem to be giving mixed messaging,
and that confuses and frustrates drivers.
Education Minister Stephen
How do you get confused or frustrated at this point? You're a driver.
We're doing everything possible, providing very clear guidance, updated in July, that's going to make these experiences on school buses more safer for the kids.
New driver, you should be frustrated by
PPE and assigned seating.
You've been driving a long time.
I'm Roman Qureshi.
Should not.
680 News Time, 10:07. The violent home invasion in the East End last month left 2 people seriously wounded. Today,
you get for hanging with pussy. People think we're joking. Whoever did this is smart. They didn't kill nobody. Smart as hell. You didn't kill nobody.
July are believed to be connected because the same victim was shot each time.
Yeah, and the same suspect at both. So you keep leaving that out. Well, they're saying it last. I think
the common victim suffered life-altering injuries in the home invasion in the Dawes Road area. This one man was also wounded in the shooting around Don Mills and Overley, only a 15-minute drive away. As for why someone
15 minutes at what speed? What are you talking about?
Man twice.
It's a 15-minute drive. Before you did 15 minutes in the Gardner and the rush hour.
There was a demand for money.
On top of all that, one of the 4 suspects from the home invasion, a woman, matches the description of a suspect from the shooting. A police sketch and security camera video can be found at 680news.com.
Are you saying you think they're the same, or are the police saying they might be? Like, what are you? You see the part that's missing and they're phrasing it.
Happening now, the second night of the Republican National Convention is currently underway. First Lady Melania Trump is slated to deliver the keynote address. The evening will also feature pre-taped remarks from America's top diplomat, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. And Pompeo's appearance at the National Convention is both controversial and unprecedented. That's all because the Secretary of State, both Democrat and Republican, have long stayed away from overt political events. Pompeo's speech was taped in Jerusalem, where he'd been traveling in an official capacity as Secretary of State.
This is 680 News. Hurricane Laura is expected to grow to a dangerous Category 3 storm as it churns through the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico. 680's Madison Fitzpatrick is following the story and joins us now with more. More than 500,000 people have been ordered to evacuate the Texas and Louisiana coasts ahead of Hurricane Laura. Forecasters expect the storm to grow to a major Category 3 hurricane over the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico before hitting the U.S. coastline late Wednesday or early Thursday. Texas Governor Greg Abbott says Laura could be even stronger than expected.
We be prepared for the possibility that it could increase to be a Category 4 hurricane.
Hurricane Michael in 2018 was the last major hurricane in the Gulf Coast of Mexico to rapidly intensify. Laura has already killed more than 24 people in Haiti and the Dominican Republic. I'm Madison Fitzpatrick. This is 680 News.
And now the 680 News gas price update and process. The price will rise 3 cents at midnight to just under $1.09 a liter at most GTA stations.
Together, parents and educators have forced the federal government to change their flawed plan for school in September. But they haven't gone far enough. Instead of showing leadership, they're passing the buck to school boards at the last minute. Tell the Ford government every school in the province needs smaller classes for physical distancing, proper ventilation, and masks for everyone. Take action at buildingbetterschools.ca.
Flat piece of metal. Nice and thick gate. If I smash on the rocks and the sewer grates, they fall through.
680 News time, 10:11. Time for traffic and weather. Let's get an update on those roads now with Craig Gear. Oh, we have roads. They are still in place. Of course, they have not moved. The construction is popping up all over the place, though. This report brought to you by TSC eastbound Gardner. We have a collision on the ramp to the DVP. So as you approach the DVP, we're getting some delays here. So if you want to split off, head north to the DVP, it's going to be a right lane that's blocked on your access point. And then no access to Lakeshore now. The ramp's been completely shut down because of this collision. Westbound 401, they're still posted there. Approaching Kennedy in the collectors, where a right lane's been blocked off from an earlier collision. It looks like it's just MTO hanging out now. Delays have eased. We have construction really causing a nightmare. Eastbound 401, it's slightly slow through the construction at Mississauga Road down to a single lane. As you approach the 427 Indy Express, minor delays. 2 right lanes are blocked off. The express lanes are closed east of Kipling to approaching Yonge, and that's going to cause delays. You approach the split getting into the collectors. It is right now backed up from approaching Dixon Martin Road. You only have a couple lanes sliding into the collectors. So the express is closed from the split east of Kipling all the way over to approaching Yonge tonight. So just heads up. Heavy delays from approaching Lake Ridge through to the construction at Brock Street. 2 left lanes blocked off. You're down to a single lane. Westbound 401 again, down to a single lane through the Whitby Brock Street overpass, and we're backed up from west of Stevenson. Westbound 401, they've shut the express lanes down completely now at the split at Brock Road to approaching Port Union, where you can get in. Rougemont transfer, Port Union area. Southbound Markham Road ramp to the westbound 401 shut down as well tonight. We have at the Allen Indy Express construction in the 2 left lanes, backed up from Avenue in the Express. We have the Steeles ramps to and from the northbound 404 closed now. Southbound 400, no access to Finch. This ramp's been blocked off. Check out the range of hydrating Clarins skincare at TSC. Shop restorative creams, masks, and scrubs by Clarins and enjoy easy pay payments. Shop tsc.ca. Next report at 10:21. Here's the forecast with Carly.
There is a slight chance for some isolated rain shower activity tonight, but mainly dry across the region, mainly clear tonight as well. And 14 degrees will be the overnight low. Tomorrow, 22, partly sunny to start the day. And then the clouds increase and the rain arrives by the afternoon, lasting into the evening. We could get some thunderstorms from Wednesday night into Thursday morning as well. And then for Thursday, 28, feeling like 36 when you factor in that high humidity. And it's very windy with gusts up to 60 kilometers per hour. And we bring back the rain for Thursday afternoon. Tonight's overnight low, 14 degrees.
Right now in downtown Toronto, it's 23, feeling more like 25 under a partly cloudy sky. And west of the city at Pearson Airport, it's 22 degrees. 680 news time, 10:13. A small town in Washington State says it needs the Canadian border to reopen in order to survive. Point Roberts is a town of about 1,300 people, and residents have to commute 40 kilometers through Canada to access the rest of Washington State. That state's governor, the U.S. ambassador to Canada, and 2 senators have all written to our prime minister asking Trudeau to find a practical solution. We'll recap your top stories next. 680 News Time, 10:14.
Can you pledge allegiance to
safe situation at
Appliance, the polar bears, maple syrup, and back bacon, female bacon, back bacon,
up to $500 and save on energy costs with hundreds of appliances, including KitchenAid dishwasher.
Sit to an entire John Candy movie.
By the government of Canada ends September 30th. Shop from home at TascoAppliance.ca.
Oh, you're not with BC, you're part of Ontario. Fuck that, we're gonna get you everything you need. Don't worry, I'll figure it out somehow. Someone will do it. Y'all got boats? Because if y'all got boats, y'all on the water, right? My niggas pulled the dress for 5 minutes from 300 feet down. What you gonna do about that, Mr. Frogman?
Get over $4,700 in total price adjustments with optional features selected on a new 2020 Escape Titanium. Visit your local Ford store or Ford.ca. Real Ford owners have been compensated for their time.
This is All News Radio, 680 News. 23 degrees under a partly cloudy sky downtown. Good evening, I'm Zach Bodenstein. Here are the top stories this hour. Nothing is changing and the job is not getting done. That's the consensus from the Raptors locker room when it comes to racial injustice. The team considering boycotting games because of continued acts of police brutality against black people. Their second round series expected to get
a whole bunch of people that may or may not be considered black.
$2 billion for
fucking white. They don't really give a fuck what happens to us.
School in the country. The total now $21 billion spent by the feds. And Toronto police releasing new surveillance footage and the drawing of a suspect in a violent East York home invasion last month in which 2 people were shot. 680 News Time, 10:15. Time for 680 Sports, and from Sportsnet 590 The Fan, here's Show Ali.
It's been a roller coaster in tonight's Blue Jays-Red Sox game down at Salem Field. The Jays held a 6-3 lead in the 6th inning after a 2 RBI Vladimir Guerrero Jr. single. Things quickly unraveled after that as the Red Sox loaded the bases off of Wilmer Font and A.J. Cole. A bases-clearing triple from Rafael Devers gave Boston the lead. It's now 9-6 Red Sox. Just the bottom of the 9th remains on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. You can watch it on Sportsnet as well. A pretty notable Leafs transaction today as Toronto deals away forward Kasperi Kapanen to the Pittsburgh Penguins, the team that drafted him, along with Pontus Aberg and a prospect. The Leafs are getting back the 15th overall pick in the upcoming NHL draft, as well as 3 players, including Swedish prospect Philip Hollander. The deal also saves the Leafs $3.2 million in cap space. In Stanley Cup playoff action, 2 games on the go. The Bruins and Lightning are tied 3-3 in overtime. Blake Coleman and Brad Marchand each have 2 goals apiece for their respective teams, while the Canucks and Golden Knights have gotten underway as well. Elias Pettersson with an amazing pass to Tyler Toffoli, who bangs it in. Vancouver leads 1-0 in the first. And in tennis, Milos Raonic defeated Andy Murray down at the Cincinnati Open in straight sets 6-2, 6-2. Sports at 15 and 45 past every hour or anytime at sportsnet.ca/590.
680 News Time, 10:17.
You know how it goes. Jack and Sarah in a world of their own. Cindy spends the night texting. Jeff's up for a good time. Oh, and Greg does the rolling.
And the driving. See, Greg doesn't drink. But did you know that drivers impaired by cannabis or other drugs pose the same dangers and face the same penalties as those impaired
or
by
other drugs? Meaning what? You've never charged anybody for codeine or oxy or anything, ever.
A message
Never.
from Drive a Lot, Drive Sober, sponsored by
And as for alcohol impairment, you've changed the law to the point where it's useless. Oh, if you crack a beer 2 hours after you get home, they can say you were drunk while you were driving. You've got to prove otherwise.
With an adaptive model of part-time classroom attendance.
That's in the door to them with no warrant.
Safe, steps are being taken to maintain physical
Oh, if he thinks he's got a problem with cars, let him kick the door.
classrooms and
He has to see
limited
you after the
interaction among
house.
students and staff. To
Officer,
learn
you
about other
have to be
health and
committing a
safety measures
criminal
in our
act as an
schools,
officer.
please
So
visit
how can they say, so you can't do it unless,
ontario.ca/reopening schools, paid for by the Government of Ontario.
680 News Time, 10:18. Turns out July sales of new homes surged almost 14% in the U.S.
Sales of new homes jumped again in July, up 13.9% as the housing market continues to gain traction following a spring downturn caused by the pandemic. The Commerce Department says that last month's gain propelled sales of new homes to a seasonally adjusted annual rate, which is a much higher number than analysts had expected. It also follows big increases in May and June. The government report has a high margin of error, so the July figures could be revised in the coming months.
Oh, fuck
Shelley
off.
Adler, Washington.
680 News
What's the
Time,
margin
10:19.
there?
Toronto police have made an arrest after a car crashed into a storefront at Yorkwoods Plaza in the Jane and Finch area. They were called to the scene around 11 o'clock this morning. The man tells 680 News that one man was struck by a vehicle.
He was standing here talking to me. And then I went away, was talking to somebody else. And I turned around and heard a bang. Yes, he's on the ground.
It means
That
paramedics
fucking
say that
fast in
person
this
was
city,
taken to
eh?
hospital with minor injuries.
No, you don't
Police say the
understand.
suspect drove off
This
after
man
the
now
crash
has a
and was
fucking
arrested
thing
in a
hanging over
nearby
him.
building.
I was
This is
talking to
680
him.
News, and 680 News is working
Talk
for
to
you
you,
to
God.
give you answers to what you need to
And
know
the
about
man run from the
COVID-19.
scene.
A 680 News listener asked, should children visit their grandparents or loved ones who are vulnerable to the virus?
Yeah,
Once
don't answer.
in-person classes resume in the fall, we spoke to Toronto's Associate Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Vanita Dubé, for the answer.
So I think this is a really good question about school cohorts and then social circles. And so the social circle, if the grandparent is part of the social circle, it's 10 people who you can have close contact with. You don't need to physically distance, and you've all
Remember, it's 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times. You guys aren't thinking of this. The virus doesn't give a fuck about your reasoning. Oh, but they said only 15 minutes or
They
more.
will be with other students who
It
they may
doesn't
not
work that
always
way.
be able to physical distance. But they're still recommended to maintain a physical distance as much as possible, to wear a mask, to wash their hands, to stay home if they're sick.
And remember, you can get your questions answered as well, sending them to us at 680news.com/answers or call the 680 News listener line at 416-872-6800. 680 News Time, 10:20. Could it be a game changer? ABC's Sherry Preston has more on some fast-track COVID tests that might make it easier to find out if you're infectious.
Several companies have been given the go-ahead to use new saliva-based tests instead of the nasal tests that are sometimes hard to find because of a shortage of nasal swabs. Dr. Imran Ali with the ABC News Medical Unit says the new tests are both cheaper and faster. And we can really ramp up testing to a broad audience and get really
And they're saying that the reason these tests, one of the reasons these tests aren't coming out right is because of the swab
The
technique.
FDA granting emergency use
I know, I
authorization
went off
for more
about that the other
spit-based tests across the country. Sherry Preston, ABC News.
How come every white person that thinks that they resent the fact they're not considered a doctor has to fucking injure me?
Terrible one is you're outside of
It's
where it is
really a
terrible.
Because the textbook says niggers complain too much about
where it is bad. We have some more construction popping up now. So
which
we do have
means
a
this white
collision
guy
on the
picked it up from
eastbound,
hanging out with black people,
Gardner
right?
approaching the DVP.
Right?
The right lane
Thanks,
to the
you fucking
DVP
pieces of
is
shit.
blocked.
Oh, your
going
police
northbound.
file
And then
says,
if you
who
wanted
cares?
to
They
continue
made that up.
east off
Off
of
the
the
race-based
Gardner onto
data on the
Lakeshore, you won't
cards.
be able
They
to.
claim
This
they
ramp
don't
is
have.
completely blocked when they deal with this
Wrote
collision.
on
We're seeing
cards,
delays
not
behind
checking
it.
my ID
We're also
cards.
inside
We don't
a
use the term
long-term
carded
construction zone
in this
here,
fucking
too. So,
country.
we have some problems on the eastbound Gardner because of
Oh,
this
carding.
collision.
They write it
Southbound
down.
400, we have
They are
construction at
carding
Highway
us. You
9,
didn't get
and then
carded,
also
baby.
the
It's
ramp
not
to
about
Finch
you.
has been
The
closed.
card.
Southbound 404, a bit of
Where are
maintenance
these
happening at
cards?
Stouffville Road. The
Gonna
two
bun 'em
lanes
off.
are blocked off. Northbound, DVP is in good shape. 404, you have maintenance at Finch. The Steels ramps to and from the North 404 are closed. The ramp to Stouffville
somehow juries have come back with convictions. See, all that people knew each other because the police say on one of these cards they knew each other. They also say I'm white.
Through Mississauga Road, it's pretty solid through this.
They selectively decide whether I'm an immigrant or not, to whatever they
the
see
427
fit.
in the express, you have 2 right lanes closed. Express lanes are closed now.
I say first names, no, you're right.
Quite the stretch once again, so it's busy.
Big Mac don't exist. The only thing that screamed in my face.
Into the collectors.
Thanks,
approaching Brock Street, 2 left lanes blocked off down to a single lane. Both directions on the 401 at Brock Street. Eastbound delays from approaching the Lake Bridge, westbound backed up from west of Stevenson.
Yeah, so I just grabbed him by the throat.
Brock Road to west of Meadowvale, the express lanes are closed now.
Okay,
so the Markham Road ramp to the west 401 blocked off. Still with a crash cleanup underway. It's not impacting anyone. Approaching Kennedy in the collectors, we have a right lane blocked. Still delayed from Avenue in the express through to the Allen. This is because of construction in the 2 left lanes. So if you want to transfer out of the express into the collectors, you can do so. Approaching Avenue west of Yonge, you can transfer into the collectors, bypass this delay, and then transfer yourself back into the express at the Allen. And you'll avoid it all. Get your group together this summer and spend a day golfing at Wooden Sticks. Book your stay and play or group golf package now. For details, visit woodensticks.com. Next report at 10:31. Here's the forecast with Carl Lamb.
We do have the chance for a few showers across the GTA this evening. Very light in nature. Clear during the overnight. Winds also tapering off as we head toward midnight as well. 14 is the low. Tomorrow, partly sunny. And then we have increasing cloud during the afternoon. Rain. From the afternoon into the evening, we could get into some strong thunderstorms tomorrow during the overnight as well. 22 is the high, 19 is the low, and it is humid, windy, and rainy for Thursday. 28 feeling like 36, and then for Friday,
more
rain showers and a high of 25 degrees. Tonight's overnight low.
How much rain? You have no idea, right?
In downtown Toronto, it's 22 degrees, feeling like 23 under a clear sky. Partly cloudy at Pearson Airport in Mississauga. It's 22 degrees over there.
A luxury feel with premium features. The Nissan Murano was made for the modern boss. And right now, during the Rediscover the Road sales event, lease a 2020 Nissan Murano for the equivalent of $199 bi-weekly, or get up to $5,000 cash purchase bonus on other select models. Visit choosenissan.ca or your Nissan dealer. 428 monthly, 0 down, 1.9% for 48 months. Conditions apply.
Coming up at 10:30, racial injustice is hitting close to home for the defending champs. The Raptors considering boycotting games as their second round series begins on Thursday. Many players speaking out, saying they're sick to their stomachs, having to talk about continued acts of police brutality against black people.
When you need to know the latest on schools and the return to the classrooms during COVID-19. Now more than ever, when you need to know, this is 680 News.
And this portion of 680 News is brought to you by SearchKings.ca. The business reports coming up in 60 seconds. 680 News time, 10:25.
Oh, sugar. Sonoma Beach. That's Bolshevik. Trying to do Google AdWords yourself can be bad for business and frustrating. Pretty soon you're not using AdWords.
How about AOL keywords, nigga?
Your mother would want you to use Search Kings.
Like 8 times, right? Oh, there it goes. What the fuck just happened?
Round everybody up! Twisted.
What the fuck is going on here? I'm pressing back over and over. It's not going back. It's doing other shit. Oh, you were gonna listen to a girl rap. We can't let that. Oh,
They popped back up instantly on that track. I pressed it a random number of times. It's not the first one.
Sex, money, and murder is what I fantasize. Sex, money, and murder is what I fantasize. Sex, money, and murder is what I fantasize.
Plenty promises and promises, no family ties. Beating court cases surround me like a gang of flies. I seen a gun to keep it moving, only fantasize. About my equilibrium, I need to answer why. I need these banknotes and millions. The pauses for my monument. To lay up in the B and see this D up in between my thighs. I fantasize about these angry guys. Killer fams, they never knew I wanna murder guys. You an accident murderer, you wanna earn your pies. Coming off of niggas looting all these hammers fly. I came up off the noodles. The hustle game was crucial. You govern, then they shoot you. Understand my whys? I could still be on my hammer shit. No, but the MC in me burning like this cannabis. I'm paramount on Atlas. Peep the flash you with the Sorrento. It's the only thing that's switching up. The game chill like mental. Yo, who are you?
Why did I force the cops to speak to me in French and all that all these years?
You niggas joking, still broke.
I didn't want you no cops, no French.
About to hit the books, I'm the accountant. Tunnel vision, represses all them crooks, I am surrounded. Pretty like the pound it. My bite barking louder than this gang events. Ain't none of you ain't been a threat. I'll show you how this 30 get. That's my age guard, it's then the next planet for the president. These pussies on the internet. So fashion on my skin, they rap. I never knew about Snoopy and Connect.
So French cops
the first female to run the rappers rap. You twisted cause I cut the dress. The principle of older heads. You surely broke this bread though. When I was talking about my kinfolk, them years ended zero. Excuses on the decade. You jump on so still fake. I'm coming through the fuck it up like Luke Cage. I'm wavy like the loose spray. I still on point. Come on, go flying in the loose cage.
The money get mad is what I fantasize. Sex, money, and murder is what I fantasize. Sex, money, get murder is what I fantasize.
Fucking sense, eh?
Sex, money, and murder is what I fantasize. When y'all were getting shot up, I was getting my wires up. I'm still getting caught when the messenger rattle. Sex, drugs, and murder for money. You coming from me, I'm fucking gully. You still living, then you was lucky. You a public figure, trying your best. In this fight, we fight to the death. You bitches lost your sight and your breath. Taking your senses for granted. We came up here in Maryland, Manson. You and your homie gon' be sharing your casket. We carried a ratchet and said that you a burial package. It's very relaxing. The way we taking care of them faggots get carried in plastic and dumped from an aerial vantage. My moms used to say I'm always taking advantage. Nah, cause really I ain't taking the fat shit. Like these are kind of people make reports and they flag shit. And I'm my work float like a stain in a damn shit. So I defend this bitch, I be strapped like Stan Smith. Boy, that ain't no reference. I love the glitzy 1911, my preference. Get you fired from your job with a severance. I kill the biggest bear like the revenant. Don't wear your fabric so everybody shares it. Fuck around with Charlie, but I'm getting on some murder shit. Big gun, then you know I'm gonna defend the turf with it. Bubble like a strip around the wall when I'm working it. Shake up your vehicle like it's turbulence. My A-Rap keep explosives where it's turbulence. You feeling cold, I'll turn the heat on, it's courteous. My treaty niggas put the poison in your curry dish. Mr. Opium, Mr. Pipe, burpee heads and okra. Boy, I'll get you soaked up. Tie them up and roped up. Chain look like gold dust. Whatsoever know us. Fetch down and still get your throat cut. Sex, money, get murder is what I fantasize. Sex, money, get murder is what I fantasize. Sex, money, get murder is what I fantasize. Sex, money, little kid. I was in the kitchen watching work. Had the flyest kicks. I was never on no hurt shit. Had the flyest bitch. I couldn't fuck with no hurt shit. Heavy in gymnastics cause I had to make that work. Touch niggas living me. Fuck niggas kidding me. Break her arm and laugh in your face. And that's the kid in me. Dark clouds surrounding us. You can smell a pound of us. All my niggas came from the bottom. I mean the grounding up. Spot him like acid in traffic. You couldn't pass me. Made my first rock before Drake got shot in the grassy. That's about the same time that Teddy got touched too. 2 days later I got crushed in the lunchroom. Day after that I came back with a pump that held too. Only takes one red sun, I caused hell too. And don't stop if a nigga gets caught too. 3 HS. Not apologetic, why the fuck you think I shot you? Not everyone's a blessing, so just watch you talk to. When I pull up on your block, niggas know it's G-Lock. You know I send shots. Aim it at the top. When I pull up at the spot, don't bother cop cops. When the niggas reckless, and the bullets won't stop. Yo, I'm gonna ride on my enemies. If I go today, I bet my dogs will remember me. Shooting out the centerpiece after this Tennessee. Where the God, you cannot stop my energy. They know me for rolling on them late nights with the millions trying to get our shit right. Rolling with that sick pipe. Ask SP, you know I got him. It's red lights on a motherfucker when I spot him. And this life we fucking up them commas. Niggas don't want no drama. I'm on the waistline and beating llama. Word to my mama.
You know, he's a teacher. That's his job. He's a teacher. Yeah, before becoming a politician, he went to get a job. He's a teacher, but it's still a job. People trusted him with their kids, eh?
And a car sends one person to hospital with serious injuries. That happened just after 9:30 this evening on the eastbound Gardner and the DVP Lakeshore split. The driver.
Thankfully, this starts 6 when you're looking for a first. I don't care what race he really is. Just give me a shade. Free John. Free OG. Go on. Go hard leg loading.
150 days because of COVID-19 rules. The 17-year-old has autism and lives in a group home. But even as the province continues to reopen, he's still not allowed to go home and see his family for weekend visits. Amin from City News has more.
You're not allowed to do that. How are you allowed to do this?
That we've just abandoned him because he doesn't understand what is happening.
And he'll never understand. They can't legally do that to you.
17-year-old son Aiden since March. As COVID cases
not a
went
prisoner.
down,
He's allowed to
restrictions
leave the
were
fucking place
loosened,
whenever
so
he
the family
wants.
could go see Aiden, but
He
not
just
his
doesn't
sister.
know he
And they
can
wouldn't
do
be able
that.
to take him home to Peterborough for the weekend like they've been doing
What's
the
going to happen?
last
Same
5
thing as
years.
that 6-year-old on the fucking highway riding down the street. Something like that will happen. You'll find him wandering around in the woods or whatever.
He would be running super fast to a car to get out of there. And so the fact that he wouldn't be able to would be very traumatic for him.
You can have random anybody going in and out of there to work because they graduated high school just barely.
They want to see their loved ones, but to bring them home and then bring them back again, that's tough on the system.
He argues that the staff at these homes come and go quite often. If they were to bring Aiden home for the weekend, they would be following public health guidelines.
This is Oldies Radio 680 News at 10:37. School bus drivers
There's nothing that says you can separate someone
looking for when it comes to health and safety protocol. 680's Moment Qureshi joins us with the latest.
One parent
The start of the
cannot
school year
leave
is rapidly approaching. And for bus drivers,
the
that comes with a
jurisdiction
number
without the
of
written
concerns,
consent
including
better
the way kids will be
from the
spaced
other
out
one.
on buses,
It don't matter
cleaning, and
what your
availability of
relationship status
PPE
is.
for drivers, among other things.
We're going overseas, you all gotta have
for a
passports.
decade, saying one of the big issues right now is the
Out of
mixed
country,
messaging.
whatever.
The lack of requirements and the lack of a mandate across the province concerns drivers, and it's hard to figure out. Every single board has different rules. Every single bus company has a different procedure.
The drivers are represented by Unifor, which is calling for the province to provide clarity and consistency, something Education Minister Stephen Lecce says they're doing.
We have provided guidance to school boards to ensure a full suite of PPE, not just masks, including face shields, are provided to our drivers, that there is a mandate like there is in schools for masking seating for students that go on it. There's assigned seating, which is really critical for contact management and tracing.
But it appears there is certainly some confusion and concerns. I'm Alvin Qureshi.
680 News Time, 10:38. Toronto police have released security video of suspects in connection to an East End home invasion last month. 2 people were shot in the incident, suffering life-altering injuries. 680's Rob Douglas has more.
2 violent crimes connected by a common victim and a common suspect.
Paralyzed.
First, a shooting in the Don
Big
Mills
ugly scar on your face. What happened?
May.
Blow your
Then a
nose
home
off.
invasion
What
in late
happened? Blow
July.
your ear off like the
An
movies.
apartment building in the Dawes Road
Did they
area,
get you with the left ear and then the right one? Like what they do?
From the first crime
Forcing
scene.
hell, right?
In that early morning Sunday home invasion,
Really?
2 men were
The
shot.
police.
And they're still recovering today.
Two adult male victims still remain in hospital with pretty serious life-altering injuries, but not life-threatening at this point.
Inspector Lord Pope from the Toronto Police Hold-Up Squad says one of those men was also shot at the Don Mills overlay scene.
He is targeted at both of those shootings.
During the home invasion, 4 suspects came
They knew
in,
his
including
name,
one woman.
who he was.
The description of that woman matches a description of a suspect also spotted at Don Mills and overlay. Police have released a composite sketch of her, along with some security camera video. Check it all out at 680news.com.
This is going to be like 3 seconds of video.
680 News Time, 10:39. Happening now, 2 of the president's children, Eric and Tiffany Trump, taking to the Republican National Convention stage to make the case.
They'll make you sit through like 47 seconds of nothing on like a 58-second video. There'll be 3 seconds of movement and 10 seconds of it's garbage. The way they can't even cut videos right. Police funerals on the Toronto Police YouTube channel. The first 30 minutes is just horses shitting. It's a police officer taking that video.
All black on my clothing. X-Men, that's how we rolled in. Put it to you. Nah, they couldn't just start 6, like, no? Free up the youth, man. See? Free 6, free kilo, free John, free OG. Go hard like Logan. All this DBS. All black on my clothing. X-Men, that's how we rolled in. Put it to you, have you jumping like the rose in. But you in your mouth, taking out your gold in. Put it to your next man, now his neck frozen. Now I'm dipping in the stolen, creeping in, I'm scoping. I see him leave him open. Big large gun, there's no poking. Pop out the pit, your head's open. Now you're floating. The body stays stiff in the ocean. Cruising with some deadly fish, so your body ain't exposing. DBS, I was chosen. And so I hunt for the golden. I make guaps, don't care if it's stolen. But pop if you owe him. The black flag I was holding. 5 DB we rollin', 10 guns we be holding, 2 each so we gon' win. The headshot so you gon' spin.
Niggas not tryna see me with the DBS, cause you know the niggas I'm with, get it poppin'. Strap on my waist, you can tell by how I'm walking. Back left, you can live right in the coffin. I remember I almost got caught slipping, shit had me tripping. On this block I'm sitting, call it camping. My niggas had me snapping. Now I'm sitting here, frontin' on my enemy. Had to get my own strap, niggas didn't fend for me. A fat blunt and some Hennessy, just to level me. This beat sounds heartfelt. Big bullets make the biggest niggas melt early. That's a yes, nigga.
Up top, nigga, I'm nigga. Every nigga I roll with, call them scavengers. Somebody strapped to the beat, so mad at the caliber. Deal with you right, ain't no getting back at us. Do what I gotta, then I'm dipping in the Avenger. Back to the bricks, do in the usual way. Felt like he was trying to hide, so I had to shoot a few. Gotta expect it, you know how down bottom shooters do. Cut the gloves and eat your hoodie. Black socks fitted cool black. I'm about to get down on my business. Deal with them on the ones, no need for a witness. Hand me the ratchet, call me Mr. Fix It. Learn from my bro, no need for shooting if you miss it. Stop complaining, every day is a gift. Every day up and got myself in the kitchen. Fiends everywhere. Pots whipping, I wanna move bricks, but a nigga hate pitching.
king. The strap I got on my waist stays kicking, and I be trained so I aim with precision. Hit him in the 6-pack, give him about 6 flat, and it's a rip rap. Nigga believe that. 3-2 when it only costs a G-stack. Something like it's only half of the re-end. Double M and DBS, know that we bang, know that we bang.
Get it in and T.O. everywhere that we go. Niggas know how we roll, deeper than the mouth. Before I let the heat blow, creeping on you motherfuckers. Just to let you know, I ain't sleeping on you motherfuckers. Just to let you know that I'm ready and I'm firing. When I come through, nigga, don't be hiding. If I get caught off the Glock, then I'm lying. Don't claim it's on, then slowly be dying. You can find me in the slowly riding. If I'm strapped up, best believe it's on the waist. When we strapped up, put the strap in your face. I was on the block, posted up front page, trying to get guapping every other way, still trying to get guap. Looking. What the fuck it is, nigga? You're not grinding, but that's the motto we live by. With timing, playing games, we got no time. Grind, till I stack so high, right? For all the niggas who are close by, if you ain't out to please stay on the lower side. Big gun, eagle eye, that'll get your show fried. Grind, that's the motto we live by. Right. Tell all of your foes.
I tell these niggas act sick like my niggas won't air you or talk tough, so you see me creeping in your rear view. So I dare you, if it's me you wanna harm G, shots make your heart stop, I'm out in the heartbeat. Always on my feet cause niggas sneak for the right price. So in these dark streets I keep it close like a nightlight. When I let it go they taking off like a race. Niggas always rap, why you think this mask on my face? Why you think I'm on this block making cash different ways? Nipping to these heads with shots pushing back your waves. Your mom catching grades when my niggas sit and laugh. But it's a straight face when I stick 'em for the stash. Yo, cause John knows I got some stacks at my base. But I'm still robbing niggas like I'm flat on my face. Still shooting shots, no shoes, get them laced. Do the same dirty, get away with no trace.
Grinding, that's the motto we live by. Put time in, playing games, we got no time. Grind, till I stack so high, right? For all the niggas who are close by, if you ain't out to please stay on the lower side. Big gun, eagle eye, that'll get your soul fried. Grind, that's the motto we live by, right? Tell all of your foes, yo, I'll ride out for the close ones. Crunch time, do time for the close ones. When it comes down in the long run, you niggas broke, I'm the man with the long gun. You're fucking with the wrong one. If my niggas broke, I'ma break. I'ma get you smoked out like a dope head.
Who can I mail my blood?
From this chrome lead, you owe me, anything I find is mine, then I'm a jet. Certain niggas shouldn't chip, better off with a check. Certain niggas shouldn't grip, freeze when they see guns. Freeze when they see goonies. But it's nothing like the movie. Bunch of young youths with nothing but a toonie. But we still on that fuck early. And the streets done cuff me. I'm counting money, got me feeling so lucky. Still feeling cursed cause I sleep with a dumpy. You niggas are sweet and me I'm on my munchies. I mean on my grunchies. So come try slump me. I love guns and my gun loves me. Strapped on my side like a wife and a huggy. Day shift, night shift, no kid cunny. Rubber band money, stacked by the 50s. Come try jack me, I brought the strap with me. I brought the strap with me. Ride it with me.
Round everybody up! Twisted Blaze, the ROC. I got a letter from the government the other day.
I'm ready now. Rip this shit. So, thug shit.
Look at my press back.
Straight up thug shit.
It's not a glitch.
What? Yo, from a young one up. Boys go fuck. Ghetto dope, moms no luck. Pops gon' project, prop me up.
Michael Jackson, smooth criminal. Doesn't matter if you're black or white.
Why she said it, I'ma get that spinach. I be spinning,
I know I'm gonna turn this off to fucking 10,000.
I see the pain in their heart and their chest. Why she said it, I'ma get that spinach. I be spinning, I'm winning. They don't like it. Yeah, I bet. I see the pain in their heart and their chest. I love the rain when the phone gets blessed. Of the fame and the cars and the jets. I had them thinking I was God to the sight. I never lived to live the life you would die for. Yeah, I can't say where I'm a light guard. Maybe you can get the deed, but I might charge. Pull up to the spot, they're like, who is that there? Hands up, give me the loot like a cashier. What you thought? Are you dumb? I don't play shit. Play choose you and your brother with the same clips. All that bullshit you been talking, boys, ain't shit. I'm a different man now, leave your faces. Why she said it, I'ma get that spinach. I be sinning, I'm winning. They don't like it, yeah, I bet. I see the pain in their heart and their chest. Why she said it, I'ma get that spinach. I be sinning, I'm winning. They don't like it, yeah, I bet. I see the pain in their heart and their chest. Yo, versus spot, then I'm leaving unidentified. Just a rental, had to drop it off at Enterprise. Shell cases in the whip, had to check it twice. I think my OGs for that shit, they give good advice. Yeah, this about to be a genocide. These motherfuckers won't be dead, but I can never die. I'm the reason why your wife said she met a guy. 2 minutes in a swisher just to get inside. Yeah, we are not the same kind. You gotta pay dues, I already paid twice. Y'all don't make moves, all you do is waste time. I'ma always be woke while you haters stay blind. Why she said it, I'ma get that spinach. I be sinning, I'm winning. They don't like it, yeah, I bet. I see the pain in their heart and their chest. Why she said it, I'ma get that spinach. I be sinning, I'm winning. They don't like it, yeah, I bet. I see the pain in their heart and their chest.
Words fuck away to save your face. You never were an actor. Walk away to save your face.
I ain't fucking with no cops. They don't like us getting involved with none of that political shit.
Look, some of us feel we should.
We get sad on the right.
I be popping no pills, watch me back in that field, travel holding that wheel, out the naughty I feel, pop shit burning, eat still, jumping, moving that.
Yeah. Well, here's what may be considered the last straw for Levi's relationship with the court, when he is very drunk at a banquet and recites the following poem in episode 33. On and on we march and fight, straying 10,000 miles from home, until the 3 armies are aged and worn. The fighting never ends.
Good.
We struggle and die on the battlefield, where maimed horses howl their pain to heaven.
I don't know where this is going, but that's too long-winded and large. Like, it's, no, serious, I can't stand. What the fuck that faggot shit was. No. You gotta be fucking kidding me. They just want us all to fucking go to sleep. No. Damn it.
Especially. And then continuing on, we have construction approaching Brock Street down to a single lane, backed up from approaching Lake Ridge, still westbound 401, approaching Brock Street down to a single lane this direction as well, backed up from west of Stevenson. Brock Road to west of Meadowvale, express lanes closed. We have the southbound Markham Road ramp to the west 401 blocked. And then a crash cleanup, not impacting anyone, but it's approaching Kennedy and the collectors where the right lane's been shut down. Delays from Avenue Express through to the Allen. This is because of construction. You can transfer into the collectors west of Yonge and then back into the Express at the Allen. Steeles ramps to and from the northbound 404 closed. Construction on the South 400 at Aurora Road, making it a slow drive. It's time for life to begin again with Hakeem Opticals back to its sale. Kids get 2 pair of Unbreakables for only $98. Visit Hakeem Optical for great deals today. Next report at 11:01. And now with the forecast, here's Carl Lamb. We do have the chance for a few showers across the GTA this evening, very light in nature, clear during the overnight. Winds also tapering off as we head toward midnight as well. 14 is the low. Tomorrow, partly sunny. And then we have increasing cloud during the afternoon. Rain from the afternoon into the evening. We could get into some strong thunderstorms tomorrow during the overnight as well. 22 is the high, 19 is the low, and it is humid, windy, and rainy for Thursday. 28 feeling like 36, and then for Friday, cloudy with more rain showers and a high of 25 degrees. Tonight's overnight low, 14.
It's 22 degrees under a clear sky in downtown Toronto, and over at Pearson Airport, you'll find the same conditions. 680 News Time, 10:54.
This extended forecast is brought to you by ELA.ca European Appliances. Save 15% on your kitchen and laundry appliances during their dishwasher and cooking appliance sale. Visit ELA.ca or your premium appliance retailer before August 31st.
Coming up at 11 o'clock, we'll have the latest on a potential boycott by the Toronto Raptors in the NBA bubble and details on an injection of cash into the federal government's multi-million-dollar safe return package. This is 680 News.
The insurance decreasing deductible for the greatest drivers on the road.
Basketball got baseball hats.
Who resisted his tantalizing meatball sub the entire ride home. Or in makeup.
Look at your own freaking basketball hats.
And Jason.
It's happy to say that. Call it a basketball hat. It's not a baseball hat. It's a basketball hat. Stupid. They don't play baseball. Stupid. Look at it.
Reduce your deductible by 10% each claims for a year.
Oh, look at baseball. Oh, it's a pretty.
Know the moment it happens.
Subscribe to 680 News breaking news alerts on your mobile.
Powered by the Monitoring Center Home Security.
Visit 680news.com.
You're listening to All News Radio 680 News. Coming up in just 60 seconds, your business report with Richard Summers.
680 News Time, 10:55. If you're looking for something compelling to listen to, Frequency Podcast Network is the place for you. From daily insights with the big story to the fascinating religious documentaries.
Barack Obama, par exemple, il a été de secrétaire. L'idée de la pureté, du refus de ne faire aucun compromis pour être politiquement woke, woke qui signifie l'état d'esprit militant pour la protection des minorités. Bref, l'idée de la pureté, vous deviez oublier ça, a-t-il dit. Le monde est désordonné, messy. Il existe des ambiguïtés. Des gens qui font de bonnes choses ont des défauts. Ok, c'est intéressant. Ça, je pense que ça fait 10 fois que je le dis. Agnès, continuons avec l'accusation d'annulation, mais qui cible aussi le passé, on parle des statuts notamment. Oui, effectivement. Alors, les protestations qui ont suivi la mort de George Floyd ont ciblé tout l'héritage colonial. En fait, c'est là-dessus qu'on se pose des questions aujourd'hui. Et le mouvement qui vise à un statut de héros sécessionniste ou d'esclavagiste a fait vraiment boule de neige. Et là, c'est partout sur la planète. En Angleterre, où des protestataires ont enlevé une statue de marchand d'esclaves à Bristol. D'autres s'en sont pris à Cecil Rhodes, ce Sud-Africain qui a fait fortune dans les mines et qui a donné son nom à une bourse prestigieuse. À Antwerp, en Belgique, la statue du roi Léopold II a été aspergée de peinture rouge et on sait que ce roi était absolument horrible. Il a presque causé un génocide au Congo belge de l'époque et il a 300 statues en Belgique. Donc, il y a du travail pour ceux qui veulent les enlever et on les comprend. Et même Winston Churchill, ce héros de la Deuxième Guerre mondiale, n'a pas échappé à la vague. Des protestataires ont réclamé que ces statues soient retirées à cause de ses déclarations racistes et disons qu'il ne faisait pas dans la dentelle. Je ne sais pas si j'ai le temps de lire une de ses déclarations. Alors, un exemple, c'est Winston Churchill qui parle. Je n'admets pas qu'on a fait des torts aux Indiens rouges d'Amérique ou aux Noirs d'Australie. Je n'admets pas qu'on a fait du tort à ces peuples parce qu'une race plus forte, une race de plus haut niveau ou une race plus intelligente est venue pour prendre leur place. Alors, ça, c'était en 1937.
Et non pas 1737.
C'est épouvantable. Bon, encore une fois, il y a eu des vagues chez nous avec tout le débat sur la statue de James McGill sur le campus de l'université du même nom. Et maintenant, il y a aussi tout le débat sur la station de métro Lionel-Groulx que plusieurs voudraient voir rebaptisée pour Oscar Peterson. Donc, c'est un mouvement qui se poursuit, qui s'amplifie, qui, je pense qu'on va le suivre beaucoup. Et on se demande, il y a toujours une décision à prendre entre comment faire pour préserver l'héritage historique, mais ne pas glorifier des personnages.
Mais l'idée de mettre des plaques informatives, par exemple, à côté des statues.
Comme à Bordeaux.
Ouais,
c'est ça.
C'est ça, à Bordeaux.
On a fait ça à Bordeaux, ou bien, par exemple, il y a un ancien maire de Bordeaux qui était aussi esclavagiste, sur la plaque de rue qui est à son nom, ben, on dit aussi ce qu'il a fait. C'est une façon de perpétuer sa mémoire de la bonne et de la mauvaise façon. D'autres prennent l'idée de faire des contre-statues. Là où il y a une statue d'un leader sécessionniste, bon, on met une statue d'un leader de la lutte pour les droits civiques, par exemple.
Ça fait partie des alternatives. Mais c'est ça, le débat est vraiment fascinant et effectivement, on n'a pas fini d'entendre parler, de trouver des solutions, des compromis ou de rester campé sur ses positions parce qu'il y a plusieurs qui choisissent cette méthode-là. Agnès Gruda, Michel Ouimet, ça a été du pur bonheur de vous retrouver. On se reparle aussi mardi prochain. Bye bye. À bientôt. Alors, c'est comme ça que cette première heure se termine. Je vous rappelle que notre trio santé vient s'installer à partir de 10h30 pour 1 heure. On se retrouve après les infos.
Christiane Marie Dussault, la convention du Parti républicain débute dans une Amérique plus divisée que jamais.
21 degrees and right now in downtown Toronto, clear and 22. 680 News is CFTR AM Toronto. Listen 3, 4, 5 times a day and always be in the know. You can also find out how to hear us on your smart speaker, phone, or HD radio at 680news.com/listen. The news watching never stops. 680 News is live 24/7 at the single tone. It's 11 o'clock.
For breaking news, traffic, and weather, this is 680 News, Toronto.
It's Tuesday, August 25th. Good evening, I'm Zach Bodenstein.
And I'm Eden Tababa. Here's what's making news this hour.
A couple of Toronto Raptors are speaking out following the shooting of a black man in the U.S.
I think it affects everybody differently.
The team has reportedly discussed the possibility of boycotting games.
Some more relief for schools across the country, an additional $2 billion, a total of $21 billion being sent to by the federal government to help ensure a safer return to school.
And with the return to class quickly approaching, an isolated spike in COVID cases for the GTA has many questioning the Ford government's back-to-school plan.
Breaking news from downtown Toronto, one person in hospital with serious injuries after a crash involving a car and a motorcycle.
The Blue Jays dropped the first of their 7-game homestand.
Pour dénoncer les violences policières.
No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace!
Pas de paix sans justice sont-ils scandés 2 jours après que 2 policiers blancs ont ouvert le feu sur un homme noir de 29 ans, l'atteignant de 7 projectiles. Selon des membres de sa famille, Jacob Blake serait paralysé à la suite de l'altercation dont une vidéo a été diffusée dans les médias sociaux. Les inquiétudes face à la rentrée scolaire sont présentes dans bien des pays sur la planète. En France, beaucoup de questions demeurent sur les conditions d'accueil des 12 millions d'élèves qui retourneront en classe la semaine prochaine. Parents et enseignants ne cachent pas leurs préoccupations. Mathilde Vinceneux est à Marseille.
Devant ce centre commercial où les familles terminent l'achat des fournitures scolaires, la petite Julie, 6 ans, s'impatiente. Elle va rentrer en CP.
J'ai envie. Parce que j'ai envie de découvrir l'école.
Sans sourire tranche avec la grimace de sa maman, Corinne, elle a dû télétravailler en gardant sa fille au printemps et elle a peur que ça recommence.
Ça m'angoisse à tout niveau. Je suis en confinement, ça va être une horreur.
Même stress pour cette autre maman, ses 3 enfants font leur rentrée en primaire.
On ne sait pas du tout à quoi s'attendre, on est informé de rien, on ne sait pas si la rentrée va se faire normalement, avec des restrictions, s'il y a des gestes barrières. Si j'ai des personnes à risque dans ma famille, j'ai peur que les petits contaminent les grands.
Et passé la grille de cette école du 3e arrondissement, le directeur, Frédéric Berthet, n'est pas plus rassuré pour accueillir ses 280 élèves.
Comment ça va se passer? Pour l'instant, on ne sait pas. On a reçu un protocole au mois de juillet, très allégé, qui semble correspondre assez mal à la situation de rentrée. Je ne peux pas m'afficher au portail et dire aux parents venez, votre enfant vient à l'école et il ne sera pas infecté. C'est un mensonge. Je n'en sais rien.
Il ne peut garantir que le lavage des mains régulier. Pour le reste, il attend des directives claires du ministère de l'Éducation. Marseille, Mathilde Vincent, France Info.
Et puis, plus près de chez nous, la saison touristique est encore loin d'être terminée en Gaspésie, malgré le retour en classe qui approche. Plusieurs aubergistes affichent complet ou presque jusqu'à la fin du mois de septembre. Un engouement qui sauve la mise après des mois de confinement au début de la crise sanitaire. Bruno Lelièvre a préparé ce reportage à Percé.
On est ici depuis 2 semaines, puis on est encore ici une semaine.
Encore beaucoup de monde à Percé. Des Québécois qui ont choisi la fin de l'été, comme ce couple de Joliette.
D'habitude, on les prend en juillet. Moi, je suis infirmière. Puis là, lui, il finissait en tout cas sa retraite. Et fait que là, je me dis, je vais laisser les jeunes au mois de juillet. Puis là, vu qu'ils ne travaillent plus, ben là, on va pouvoir en fin août. Ça va être parfait.
Oui, effectivement, les 2 premières semaines de septembre vont être très occupées avec des Québécois puis un petit peu plus d'Ontariens.
Le propriétaire de l'auberge au Pic de l'Aurore, Jean-François Gagné, croit que septembre sauvera cette bizarre de saison.
Qui voulait venir à partir de la fête du travail, puis qui voit qu'il n'y a pas de place. Il y en a beaucoup qui me disent, bon, ben, à partir du 17 septembre, as-tu de la place, qui poussent là, qui sont prêts à faire des compromis sur les dates.
Il y a encore beaucoup de monde dans les rues de Percé, en Gaspésie en général.
Une tendance que confirme Marie Leblanc, directrice du Bureau d'information touristique de Percé.
Notre saison touristique, c'est comme si on passait, dans le fond, à une saison plus intermédiaire. Mais là, cette semaine, c'est encore très achalandé. Ça l'était la semaine passée aussi. Puis les demandes pour les réservations, les demandes d'information continuent encore d'affluer. Donc, je pense que ça augure bien aussi pour le mois de septembre.
Il est encore trop tôt pour faire un bilan, selon Mme Leblanc, et il serait imprudent de faire des prévisions pour la saison 2021. Ici Bruno Lelièvre, Radio-Canada, à Percé.
Le premier ministre de l'Alberta, Jason Kenney, a été entretenu avec le nouveau chef du Parti conservateur du Canada hier soir au sujet de ses priorités. Il a confiance qu'Erin O'Toole sera un allié pour l'Ouest tout au long de son mandat.
Il a mis l'accent clairement sur l'équité pour l'Alberta et une future pour notre plus grande industrie, celle de l'énergie. Aaron a annoncé sa campagne à Calgary, mettant l'accent sur l'industrie énergétique. Et c'est le premier enjeu qu'il a soulevé auprès du Premier ministre dans le premier discours, était la question d'aliénation de l'Ouest.
Jason Kenney avait donné son appui au candidat ontarien tôt dans la course à la direction du PCC. 2 hommes se sont côtoyés alors qu'ils étaient tous 2 ministres sous le gouvernement conservateur de Stephen Harper. En terminant, le cinéaste Roman Polanski ne pourra pas réintégrer l'Académie des Oscars. C'est ce qu'a tranché le juge de Los Angeles, qui estime que la décision de l'Académie des arts et des sciences du cinéma est fondée. Le réalisateur franco-polonais de 87 ans a fui les États-Unis il y a 4 décennies après avoir plaidé coupable de détournement de mineurs. Ici Radio-Canada.
11:06, 100 new cases of COVID-19 in Ontario, and 2 new fatalities as our reopening is starting to go down in separate paths. On one hand, many regions have a handle on virus spread, but now the GTA is starting to see an isolated spike, accounting for more cases than the rest of the province combined.
Every other day it's
opposition
isolated
parties are
for 2
calling a
weeks.
new
They've
ad
isolated
campaign from the Ford government propaganda as it promotes their plan for the return to class. And this is what the Premier had to
And
say
the
in
money's
response.
supposed to be what money for the teachers.
Communicating the message, no matter if it was at the beginning about PPE, about social distancing, about long-term care, or if it's about education.
And opposition parties argue that the money can be put to better use. Ford says his government will be transparent and release how much money was spent on the campaign soon.
What's the difference
This is
between the
680
feds and the
News
city
at
and the province?
11:07. Many students who took public transit to get to school last year are now rethinking boarding a bus or subway this September because of COVID-19. The City News reporter Malia Sheikh has more on what steps TTC is taking to try to help young riders.
When it gets colder, I'm not really sure what I'll do. My parents, they can't really drive me. And also, like, taking Uber or Lyft will be really expensive.
This grade 12 student used to take the TTC to school, but now she, along with her friend, won't be.
I won't really feel safe. It will be very busy.
The TTC says they anticipate it will get a lot busier for transit come September. They are currently working with school boards to come up with a game plan.
We typically see about 140, 150,000 students riding the TTC in a year.
Another big concern, people still not wearing masks while on transit.
I have taken it myself once or twice, and I know that people do not wear their masks properly. So I would not want my children to be exposed to any possibility of getting the virus.
Toronto Public Health is encouraging students to walk or bike to school. If that's not a possibility, they suggest using your elbow or arm to push buttons and open doors and load your Presto card online.
680 News Time 11:08. Toronto police are releasing more information from their investigation into a home invasion last month in the city's East End, in which 2 people